The following contains spoilers for Danganronpa 1 and 2. And foul language. Probably. You have been warned. So Danganronpa 3 is upon us, the anime, not the game, and part of it will be dealing with how the cast of DR2 fell into despair, which is awesome. But I've had my own theories on how this shit went down for quite some time now. If I don't get these theories out now, the world will never get to see how completely right, or how fucking wrong, I was. I'll be going character by character to explain what weaknesses I think Junko used to turn the cast of Danganronpa 2 into ultimate despair. Alright, let's get started. We'll start with the first victim of the second game, Byakuya Tsugami, or the Ultimate Imposter. The imposter's path to despair is a bit harder to nail down than a lot of the other characters from DR2 because out of all the characters in the game, he's the one you'll spend the least amount of time with, especially if you don't do his free time events. We don't even really have a name for the guy. Hell, some people aren't even convinced he is a guy. The only insight we get into his inner character is during his final free time event, which you can only get in school mode and in hindsight once we learn about his ruse. Once we have all that information, we can see that the imposter is depressed about his own lack of self and fears that his entire life will be spent as a mere imitation of others. This is something that Hajime picks up on, and in the final free time event, he tells the imposter that he is the only Byakuya that Hajime has ever known. This is something that the imposter is extremely grateful for, and it fills him with a sense of individuality that he's never felt before in his life. But that's probably not how it's going to go down in the anime. Either Junko is going to be the person who acknowledges the ultimate imposter's identity, thus inspiring a loyalty in him that would eventually turn him into ultimate despair, or she'll convince him that to be more than a cheap knockoff, he has to do more than just take that person's identity, he has to get rid of them too, thus making him the only person with that identity and the genuine one. I could see either or both of these things happening, but the only thing I'm sure about is that identity will be key for the imposter's turn to despair. Alright, next up is Teru Hanamura. And this one should be pretty easy considering we saw basically what I think is going to happen again in the anime. Alright, let me break down what happened in the second game so you can understand what I mean. So, Nagito, oh, we'll be getting to you in time, sunshine, just you wait, trying to kill somebody. Teru finds out about this and decides that he's gonna kill Nagito first. Keep in mind he does this not to save whoever Nagito is targeting, simply to try and get the reward for killing someone before Nagito can. He wants the reward of getting off the island and getting his memories back so he can go make sure that his sick mama is okay. Teru fucks up and accidentally kills the imposter instead of Nagito. Nagito knows that Taro tried to kill him, and they have this exchange. Hey, man, you should let everyone die so you can live. Come on, man, do it for the food! Yeah, for the food! So Taro is convinced that he should let 15 people die for the good of food everywhere and his mother. This plan fails, Taro is executed, and the game continues. We can learn two important things from this. One, that Taro loves his mama. And two, that he is easily convinced to let people die. I think Taro's motivation for becoming ultimate despair will be very similar to the motivations he had to kill in Danganronpa 2. But instead of Taro's mom's condition being a mystery, she's probably gonna die. And instead of Nagito being the one going, hope and kill people, it's going to be Junko going, despair and kill people. Alternate theory, maybe Junko will just be like, hey, if you kill thousands of people, I'll let you touch my breasts. And he'll be like, sure. Alright, let's move on to the second chapter victim, Mahiru Koizumi. And she actually has a lot of similarities to Taro. Wait, no, hold on, hear me out. Mahiru has the same core weakness that Taro had, in that she has this extreme love for a mother who is in an extreme amount of danger. You can see evidence of this even without going into Mahiru's free time events. After Taro's execution, Mahiru seems distraught about the fact that Monokuma made fun of Taro's motive. With Mahiru's words, we can guess that she has a deep love for her mother, and this becomes completely confirmed if we look at her free time events. In her free time events, we also gain the information that Mahiru's mother is a war photographer. So, much like Taro, I believe that Mahiru's path to despair will kick off with the death of her mother. Since Mahiru's mother's occupation puts her in so much danger, it doesn't seem that far-fetched to me that she might end up dying during the series. Losing her mother might also explain why Mahiru was willing to hide the fact that Sato murdered Fuyuhiko's sister. She may have just been trying to prevent Sato from being taken away, who, much like Mahiru's mother, was also a female important to Mahiru. Considering that Sato dies despite Mahiru's efforts, if Junko also became an important woman to Mahiru, she may have been willing to go to extremes to keep Junko in her life. I think it's important to consider Peko and Fuyuhiko a package deal, so we'll be covering them together in this part. I think by the time Peko and Fuyuhiko had gotten to Hope's Peak Academy, they had already been on their path to despair. Fuyuhiko at the very least wants to be friends with Peko, but can't bring himself to say it due to his own special brand of anti-socialness. So Fuyuhiko tells her that he doesn't want her as his weapon. Peko misunderstands this and assumes that Fuyuhiko hates her and doesn't want her at all. This way of thinking is wrong. Before Peko's execution, Fuyuhiko and Peko have a heart-to-heart, and while Peko dies, Fuyuhiko is given a new stance on life. But in the anime, this heart-to-heart isn't going to happen, and Fuyuhiko's mindset isn't going to change. Peko and Fuyuhiko will continue to drag each other into despair as the one they long for refuses to acknowledge them in the way that they want. Fuyuhiko finally goes over the edge when his sister is killed by Sato, and he ends up killing Sato for revenge. With his murder cherry already popped and already in the depths of despair, all Junko has to do is be in the right place at the right time to get Fuyuhiko playing for her team. And as Fuyuhiko becomes ultimate despair, I'm sure his loyal weapon will follow right with him. Man, what a bitch. Kyoko, despite being probably the meanest character in Danganronpa 2, is actually really hard to nail down what would make her go evil. I mean, one of her defining character traits is that she fucking hates murderers. I've thought about it a lot, and the only answer I could come to is that she might be betrayed, maybe? Now, in Danganronpa 2, Kyoko loves Mahiru. And judging by this shot, that's going to happen again in the anime. Now, who does Kyoko hate more than anyone else? Well, everyone knows it's Mikan. Nope, wrong. If we play the free time events, we find out that Kyoko is actually extremely jealous of Sonia Nevermind. And what two people do we see hanging out in the trailer? Sonia and Mahiru. Bang, boom, despair solved. Mahiru starts hanging out with Sonia and not Kyoko, and this little psycho starts squishing people. Flawless logic, 0% chance of being wrong. Alright, it's Ibuki's turn. For Ibuki's path to despair, it's all about the music and these two words. Creative differences. Ibuki has a talent for playing light music or pop, depending on how you want to translate it, but has no real interest in actually playing that. Ibuki is more interested in playing heavy metal or rock or grunge or whatever the fuck genre this is. I don't know, I don't really listen to that much music. The point is that Ibuki tries to play this despite no one really supporting her choice to do so. Ibuki is of the belief that you should play what you want to play and not what's going to sound the best. Something to keep in mind about Ibuki is that she tries to stay upbeat even when she's really upset. She flat out admits this to Hajime when he talks to her about Byakuya's death. So it's pretty telling of how upset she must be after everyone leaves her concert. I think the fact that everyone left isn't the only reason she's upset. I think she's also upset because while she was playing, everyone was shitting on her performance. Her bandmates left her because of the type of music she wanted to play. Her so-called friends are appalled by the music she tries to play. To Ibuki, it must seem like no one actually cares what's in her heart and only wants her to sell out and play what's appealing to them. Backtracking just a bit, Ibuki and Kyoko must feel abandoned, and it would be easy for Junko to just pick them up and put them on the wrong path. I feel like I should have an easier time with Mikan than I actually do. After all, she is one of the two characters we got to see for an extended period of time as ultimate despair. And yet, I don't know. Well, let's go over what we know just to see. She is in love with Junko because she has forgiven her. She seems to blame almost everyone for why she ended up the way she did. She is willing to be completely and absolutely abused for attention because to her, being ignored is the absolute worst thing to be. And the last thing I want to point out is that it seems like everyone in Mikan's life either treats her like shit or passively accepts the way she's treated by others. So for Mikan, the only explanation I can really see is that she just hits a boiling point. The constant negative or no attention just continues to wear down her already broken and fragile personality. It's not that hard to believe that all Junko would have to do is give Mikan even the slightest bit of positive attention and she would be 100% on the side of despair. But wouldn't positive attention keep Mikan out of despair? Well, maybe a little, but you forget. Mikan's not about despair. I originally actually wasn't going to do Nekomaro and Akane together. But the more I thought about it, Akane really seems to be the only way that Nekomaro would turn to despair. Nekomaro was just this endless ball of joy. It's really hard to imagine him as despair. But I think the bond between manager and athlete might actually be enough to push him over the edge. Because, let's be honest here, Akane is kind of a violent psycho who, without the influence of Nekomaro and Chiaki, would have probably murdered on multiple occasions on the island. Also, with her shitty upbringing filled with poverty and sexual harassment, it's not like she has nothing to despair about. With her horrible life and violent tendencies, just add Junko and poof, we have our perfect ultimate despair. So how does Nekomaro work into this? Well, there's only one line that I think might point to what turns him into ultimate despair. See right here, when Nekomaro talks about the killing intent, and it being such a long time since he's felt it, he seems almost excited by it. It is my theory that Nekomaro used to have the same violent tendencies that Akane had, but has recently worked them out of his system thanks to becoming a team manager. As Akane becomes more and more violent, thanks to the influence of Junko, I think that might start to reflect in the behavior of Nekomaro as well, thanks to his own violent past. While this is a lot of speculation for just one line, I think at the very least it does make sense. You know, for a guy who survived as long as he did, and has a trial dedicated to explaining why he killed someone, you'd think we know more about Gundam's motivations. But no, he manages to keep his true feelings pretty well hidden throughout the entirety of the game underneath this Dark Lord persona. He even manages to keep the facade going during his own execution. That is extremely impressive. You live that gimmick, bro! The few things that Gundam seems to let through the cracks are his loneliness, his love for his animals, his fear of letting people get close to him, and, if you read between the lines, a possible love for his mother. But I refuse to predict mom death 3 times in the same video, so we're just going to focus on the loneliness, okay? In the game, Gundam's bond with Sonya and possibly Hajime seems to defeat his loneliness, and he seems optimistic even up until his death. So that means in the anime that this absolutely cannot happen. He's not going to become friends with Hajime because he's in the reserve course, and his relationship with Sonya either is not going to happen or something is going to go wrong. Possibly Junko is what's going to go wrong, but it's just going to end in heartbreak if it makes any progress at all. I think Gundam risking getting close to Sonya and then getting burned by it would be enough to push him back into this Dark Lord persona even further until he's nothing more than the true Dark Lord of Despair. See, I told you we'd get to him. So what could possibly get Hope's #1 fan to become ultimate despair? I mean, he's already a self-loathing psychopath with loose morals. Couldn't have been really that hard. There are 3 parts of Nagito that really push him towards despair. 1. Nagito wants there to be as much hope as possible. 2. He believes he is only a stepping stool for hope. And 3, and most importantly, Nagito believes that in the end, hope will always win. So let's put that all together. Nagito became Ultimate Despair in order to spread as much despair as possible. Because, as a step stool for hope, he believes that eventually an even greater hope will have to come along to destroy him. It is completely batshit insane, but fits right along with his ideology. All Junko would really have to do is explain this to him, and he would go along willingly. It's kind of crazy, but it seems like the biggest advocate for hope is the easiest to see going into despair. Alright, let's finish this off with probably my favorite, Kazu Ichi and Sonya. This is my favorite because we kind of already seen this play out in the second game. Unlike the other pairs in this video, their despair doesn't come from this close bond that they have. Rather, it comes from the disdain one has for the other. Kazu Ichi is head over heels in love with Sonya and treats her like an absolute princess, like the most important person in the world. And that is exactly what Sonya doesn't want. More than anything, Sonya just wants to be treated like a normal girl, and all this extra praise and attention actually really irritates her. At first, Sonya just kind of ignores the attention that Kazu Ichi gives her. Then she starts avoiding him, and by the 4th chapter, she is actively rooting for his death. This isn't something that goes unnoticed by Kazu Ichi, and yet he still tries to pursue her, despite the fact that she begins to treat him so cruelly. These two are dragging each other down, and sadly, their peers aren't helping. Sonya, despite her objections, is continually treated as a princess by the other characters in the second game. And Kazu Ichi, despite his multiple useful contributions to the group, is continually treated as worthless. By giving them the attention and, I guess, unattention that they want, Junko could probably easily sway these two over to her side. And that's it. That's all I got. We're done. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this, and if you're wondering why I didn't do Izuru or Chiaki, it's because I don't really have anything to say about Izuru, and it's not like Chiaki's gonna be in the anime. What?